Welcome back, viewers. We are discussing with Dr. Shaukat Hameed Khan the energy problem in Pakistan, and when we left off, he was explaining about the possibility of coal being used in a large scale and significantly to help us out of the situation. As you were saying, Dr. Khan, that we can certainly exploit the coal, the third reserves that we have, but we cannot do it in a manner that is going to be significant or have a large enough impact, and that is why we need to import coal. We must import coal, regardless of what that does to our balance of payment situation.
To give you an example, coal-fired plants will produce cheaper electricity, nearly as cheap as hydropower.
Really?
But if you have oil-fired, they're very expensive.
Yes.
And if it's a rental oil-fired plant, that's even more expensive. You're talking of 15, 18 cents a unit.
Good God.
And
as opposed to what?
Let's say 8 cents, 7, 8 cents for a normal thermal power plant.
Okay. Okay.
So but in the case of Thar coal, the issue is basically that you got seams of coal, you got water on top, you got water below. No miner wants to work with water on top of him.
Yes, of course.
So that's one thing. Then we also heard that the Chinese came in Shenhua and they wanted to do this. They were given some blocks. They did some studies. And by the way, nobody really knows how much water there is. Nobody really knows how much water, if you take water out, how much will come in. In the case of Germany, the water is sweet. So they can push it into the river. What do we do with our saline water? And most important of all, which has kept the Thar coal project, has been putting the brakes on it, is the federal-provincial divide. It is supposed to be Sindh's gold deposit, black gold, if you want to call it. They do not have the capacity. They bungled it in the past. The federal government wants to do it, they don't trust the federal government. The federal government also doesn't have the capacity right now to do large-scale mining. So you've got to bring in outsiders, have some strategic alliances, have people come in and work with you. The Chinese came in and we heard all sorts of rumors. I don't know if they're true or not. There was some bunglings involved, there was some cash transfers taking place under the table, and in fact it was so much was being asked that they went off in a huff. You know, they also hear those stories.
So typical.
So typical. But coal is but one thing I want to come back to is Pakistan's energy demand is part of the growing appetite in Asia. This is where the growth rate is. We are in part of this S-curve, you know, we're just beginning to grow. For example, if Korea grows by 2% a year, wonderful, because their GDP is so large, so 2% is enormous in absolute terms. For us, 6%, 8%, 10% has an impact, but we're still at the bottom of the curve. We try to move up. And Asia's demand for energy is so large that by 2010, 2011, Asia will equal America in terms of energy which it consumes. And by 2020, I think Asia will surpass the rest of the world for the energy that is going to consume. The big powerhouses, China and India, consuming a lot of energy, dirty coal. Their whole economy is based on dirty coal. We haven't used coal. We've got to bring that in. There's another thing. We keep forgetting that there are limits to growth. You remember the book that came out in the 70s, Meadows and Meadows, the Club of Rome? There's a limit to how much you can mine, how much oil you can mine. So there's the Hubbard curve. People talk about oil, for example. 2030, oil starts declining. No, they say we'll find more reserves. 2035, 2040. It just postpones the peak by another 5 to 10 years. So the real bad crunch for all of us is going to be 2050. Uranium, we won't have enough uranium. And by the way, if we have uranium, you know who the new OPEC uranium UPEC will be? Australia and Canada, for example, or Nigeria. So we don't have uranium, we don't have enough water. We gave away our water, the 3 eastern rivers, to India in the 1960s. And here energy is very closely linked with water. We grow the wrong kind of crops. Why are we growing rice and exporting it? For every 1 million tons of rice we export, and we use a lot of energy and a lot of water, we are shipping out something like 2.5 million acres feet of water. That's half of Tarbela. You know,
no, right? but
as an example.
What I want to come to is, you've talked about an energy crunch coming
in general terms for the whole world.
For the whole world, but that is in 2050. I'm talking
much earlier.
right now.
I think it will start much earlier.
All right, but I'm talking about 2010.
Okay.
I mean, what Pakistan is facing right now, this is on a larger Asian canvas. We are talking about Pakistan specifically, and you've identified gas and coal. Also, now as far as the hydel issue is concerned, as you say, we have traded away 3 of Pakistan's rivers, and the one that we have left, I was recently reading in the Chenab, which is in our share, the 26% of the water was held back by India. There's nothing that we apparently can do about this. The Baghliyar issue was not solved to anybody, at least to Pakistan's satisfaction. Most inequitable settlement over there. What's going to happen in the future if we look at the present and the past, then we can't be very sanguine about Pakistan's capacity to, get energy, leave aside energy from hydel sources. We can't even really talk about the survival of our agricultural system. We're relying on this and the way we've been acting.
I was looking at one of the news lines, one of the strips running on the TV channels this afternoon. We've got something like 5,500 megawatts of energy shortage, a gap right now.
Yes, right now. So what are we going to do about that?
Let me give you an example.
Sorry, can I just ask, would you just link this to...